but it's also, there's no great big drama at the centre of it. It's just like Lady Bird has like opened her arms to us and allowed us in for like a year and a half of her life, and I love those kind of stories where you can really sort of inhabit just that life at that particular time for that person, and getting to celebrate two really important relationships for this person, which is the relationship with her mother and her best friend, was a great opportunity, because at most you'd either get to see one or the other on screen even now, you know, and to really be able to celebrate like the ups and downs of two best friends and what they go through when they're like just about to leave the structure of high school and where they grew up and how they kind of evolve as friends. That's fascinating. So yeah.
I love that as a woman watching this film, exactly as you were just saying, it's like a snapshot, it's a moment of a long period in Lady Bird's life, but you don't, normally when you'd see a teen film, it would be centered around relationships that your central character would have, and these are the romantic relationships, and these are really important, but you have two very significant and very different relationships which help you understand yourself as a character. I love that, and I wondered, was that always central to the story that you wanted to tell about a young woman sort of discovering who she was?
Yeah, well, I when I was writing the film, the working title for the movie had been Mothers and Daughters, because that was the grand love story for me, and I wanted to. I feel that often with movies about teenage girls, it's often there's one guy, or there's one guy she wants, but really she should be with the other one. But it's always centered around one guy, and I thought, but that's just not how life is. And it's not that these relationships aren't important, but that they are not the thing. They're a way that you're expressing your understanding for love, which you got from your family. And I wanted each of the characters to be meaningful, like the guys that she's in love with, that you're kind of both inside of it and outside of it. You both completely go with her teenage passion in a way that you know the movie that's playing in her head, but that's actually not the movie she's in. But as anyone who was raised on Titanic, you're basically fucked forever. So that's what I was trying to do with the way she moves through these different romantic entanglements. And what I really love about the film, and what I loved about what Lucas Hedges brought to Danny, was that beautiful scene when he talks to her and says, "Don't tell anyone," and then he cries, is that, and this is what a great actress Saoirse is, it's almost like you see her see him for the first time, and that becomes the romantic moment, not because what he can give to her, but because she really acknowledges him as a whole person. And that was on her face. It wasn't even in the language. It was what she brought to it when she took him in. Yeah.
And to go back, you talked about the mother-daughter relationship being so important, and it really is. It's like, it is sort of the love story of the film. And how did you set this up with your two incredible actresses playing these two roles? I mean, it feels so real, it feels so complex. How did you guys work together to create that?
Well, I had cast Saoirse first, and I knew I wanted an actress who had enormous power and empathy and the ability to hit a home run, but that you kind of don't see coming. And I think Laurie is someone I had known mainly on stage in New York, and I'd seen her do things on stage that I'd never really seen an actor do that. And I was so lucky that she said yes, and she actually said yes to me when we talked on the phone for the first time. And she said this publicly, but she said, sometimes movies come into your life at the right moment, and at this exact moment, I have a 17-year-old who's trying to kill me. And so I think I'm supposed to do this. And what I loved about the pairing of the two of them was that they're both like great athletes who are in the same weight class. They can really go at each other and love each other and fight with each other, and you never feel like that anyone can overpower someone or take it away. And they're both such generous actors too. And watching them bob and weave and work with each other was just thrilling. And one of the last scenes we shot in the movie was actually the big fight at the beginning in the car. And the very first take was like perfect.
I saw way too much of myself as a mother in that role. But Saoirse, what was it like for you working with Laurie? Did you guys rehearse together? How did you get this rapport?
We did a bit, but I think like no matter how much rehearsal you have with someone, it does just come down to luck and chemistry and either just being the type of people that can bounce off each other, as Greta said, or not. And we were really lucky, really, with the entire cast that we all had that rapport with each other. And actually, I found that like the relationships that I had with most of the characters or actors off screen kind of ran parallel to Lady Bird's relationships with them. It was really interesting, apart from Laurie, because I, get on really well with her and she's great. And yeah, but I mean, I think that I just had so much respect for her anyway, even before I had met her. And yeah, we were just very lucky that that sort of happened instantly. And I mean, the scene in the car is one of the most enjoyable scenes I've ever been involved in. And I think it was really sensitive and really clever of Greta and our first AD, Jonas, to have put that at the end of the shoot, because Laurie was just about to wrap and I had totally fallen in love with her at that stage and was really sad that she was going to leave us soon. And so there was so much weight to it, because even just in that one scene alone, that's how well written it is, that there's so many like stages that they go through and how they'll sort of like revisit certain things within the scene. So we needed to have built up a relationship ourselves, I think.
And Tracy Letts, so he's incredible in the film, so beautifully cast. And I saw an interview with him where he talked about really enjoying being one of the few men on this set of women. How did you, Saoirse, question for you first, how did you feel being directed? Is it the same experience being directed by a woman as it is by a man, or is there a different feeling on set? Is it different from...
I mean, no experience with any one director is the same as anything else you've gone through. Like, I've been very, very lucky to have, actually, from the very beginning of, me acting, I've gotten a chance to work with a lot of female directors as well as male, maybe slightly more male directors, but ultimately they've all got very different takes on how to make a film, how to work with actors, what kind of a movie they want to shoot, what they focus on more, and their styles, and that's been really fascinating. And there was no difference. I think, with Greta, it was such a blessing that she knows how it feels to be in the shoes of an actor, but she's also been so involved in the other films that she's acted in that she has such a great appreciation for the crew. And when your director has that, it just sets the tone on set every day, where there's like a mutual respect between everyone. So yeah.
And Greta, for you as a first-time director working with great actors, how did you set up an environment where you felt supported on set and felt like you could do what you needed to do?
Well, I had an extraordinary group of people around me, and I think, like Serge was saying, my first AD, Jonas, was my right-hand man, and then on the other side was Sam Levy, who was the cinematographer, who I've actually worked with a few times, and he has a heart of gold, and he is such an artist, and he would do this lovely thing that, I don't know if you saw it, but he's a very tall man, he's like 6'5", and he commands a lot of respect from his crew, and he would always call me boss, and he'd say, well, what do you want, boss? What do you think? Does the boss like it? And I think it was that little deference, and for someone like that, for him to give me that was, I think it just allowed all the other men on set to feel that same deference, but not in any kind of I'm lording it over them way. And I just think all of the heads of the departments, everyone was there because they wanted to be there and because they were passionate about the project. And I tried to for every single department, I wanted them to feel like you are the storyteller. You are telling the story through props, or you are telling the story through sound, or you are telling the story through lighting. And I think that if you gather the right group of people around you, then you can give them that power. And Sam Levy also told me something that Harris Savides, who is a great cinematographer, told him, is just hire people who are smarter than you are.
Well, you also have this amazing score. John Bryan wrote the music. How did you bring him on? Was he like absolutely amazing?
John Bryan writes such beautiful music, and he was the last piece, in a way, after I had edited, to come on as a creative force. And he is such a storyteller as a songwriter and a composer, and he will watch the movie like 100 times. And he worked at night, so I would go to his studio in Burbank, and I would stay up with him and his crew all night, and he would compose pieces and record them, and then he plays all different kinds of instruments, and he would record like a particular lampshade that he would hit to make percussion, and it was just extraordinary. And then we finally finished with the woodwinds. We had this whole woodwind orchestra, which was his concept, because he thought it was more delicate than strings for this film, and he was completely right about it. And it was just working with musicians is so exciting for me, because I'm not a musician, and that kind of a process in the brain, I would be able to explain a feeling to him, and then he'd play a chord, and he'd look at me and he'd say, "Is that the feeling?" And I'd say, "How do you know the chord for my feeling?" And he's like, "Well, that's what I do." And so it was a dream. He's written some of my very favorite scores of all time.
And before we came on, Greta said, "Are they going to be really disappointed because it's not Thor?" I think it's fair to say nobody is disappointed, and we want to thank you for bringing Lady Bird to London Film Festival. Thank you to Universal.